Welcome to Open Source Spotlight. We invite open source authors and ask them to show the tools they're working on. Today we have Rogerio. Hi, Rogerio. Tell us a few words about yourself and about the tool you want to show us.
Hello, yes, sure. My name is Rogerio. I'm the co-founder of LangWatch, an LLM ops and observability tool. And since a few years ago now, we have been helping companies to observe their LLM applications and run evaluations and monitor quality, right? And then more recently, a lot of those companies started moving more and more towards agents. And the agents way of building now is it's very different on how you evaluate. It's not like traditional simple benchmarks anymore because the agents are freely running out there, right? So then me and the team, we started exploring new ways on how could we handle that, what would be the best approach to do that. And in one hack day, we had an idea of having simulations with those agents. So that's the tool that I'm going to present today. It's called Scenario. That we built as an experiment and we made it open source. But the more we talk to people, the more it resonates on what they're building on with agents. And then now we are we're expanding it, and we see a lot of value on that back to our platform, which is also open source LangWatch, but that's not the one that I'm talking about today. But yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So I'm really excited to see the demo.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, you can see it, right?
I can see a frog and a person with a cartoon,
Yes. Can
like
you
a
see?
cartoon box head. Yeah.
Can you see the GitHub now?
Yeah. Hi, I'm a user. Hey, how can I help you? The frog
Exactly.
says.
Yeah, so we hope that this image is already explaining the whole library, right? So what the goal of this library is for helping you testing agents. And then a lot of our thinking was developers when writing tests is you have an input and then you expect an output, right? A deterministic test. However, agents, they're not deterministic. And if you try to make them so for example, I want to check that the agent used certain tools in this exact order, then you're kind of forcing it on a fixed path. And this doesn't work well as you evolve your application, because allowing the agent to go into many different paths, it's exactly the advantage on why you use agents in the first place, right? You want its own independence so it can take the decisions. But you still need to know if at the end of the day, those decisions were accurate. So then we had this idea of what if we don't put it on a fixed path, but rather we let it explore freely, and we have just something else checking if this free exploration is correct or if it's good enough. And more we arrived at the idea of having a simulation. So just like when you're testing, when the robot industry tests robots, or when self-driving car tests cars, they are running these simulations, right? And in the simulations, you want to present them with challenges. So what did you do if you see yourself in this situation? And those challenges we call the various scenarios. So you have a simulation, and then you have all these various scenarios that the agent is running through. And how is it that it actually works to simulate this scenario? Well, as the image shows, the way this all works is a very simple idea, but very powerful. You have another agent, which we call the testing agent, simulating your user. So you have something that is just like in real life when your app go to production, you have users talking to your agent, right? Many terms. So what we do here is something that replicates as much as possible your user, and then it's pretending to be a user talking to a real agent. Your real agent has no idea it's being tested, but so it's just replying normally. And then basically the test agent keep back and forth, and at the same time, this testing agent is also evaluating. So it's like an interviewer, it's talking to your agent, and then it's also evaluating if your agent is doing the right thing. And this is basically how you write tests in Scenario. So here, just going a little bit over, and then I'll show you on the code as well. But we also have it available for TypeScript and Go. They all have the same API and basic features, and the library is just starting. It's very recently, but yeah, our goal now is to expand more and more on on ways we can evaluate, but we can get more into that later. But anyway, let me dive right away into a simple example here. To run scenario, it's really a PyTest library, so it's already compatible with the framework that you're using, or vtest if you're in TypeScript. You can just install the library, and then you configure an example, which I think I better show on cursor. I have a simple agent here. Let me hide this panel. What I have here is a simple agent that generates me vegetarian recipes, right? And then it doesn't really matter what the agent is doing behind the scenes, if it's using tools, if it's talking with 5 other agents, and so on. But what really matters is from the user perspective. So you can think that a little bit as an end-to-end test as well. To start writing a scenario test, first thing you need to do is just configure scenario with a testing agent. So this testing agent, the library provides one out of the box. And what it does is, like I said, it's going to simulate your user given a model. So I'm using GPT-4o Mini here to simulate my user. And then I start writing my scenario. So my scenario is, that's my happy path. The user is looking for a dinner idea. Then I specify what is the agent under test. That's my vegetarian recipe agent. This agent is going to receive, or this function is going to receive a message and context that you might pass. And then you just call your agent to run this message. The response of it will be given to the testing agent so they can keep talking to each other. And then you define some success and failure criteria. The success criteria is the goals that your testing agent is trying to arrive. So you have a user that is looking for a dinner idea, right? And then what does it mean success? It means that the recipe agent generates a vegetarian recipe. All those, they have to be achieved. So those are goals. Our testing agent will keep talking to your agent under test until we reach all those goals. Or it will stop talking and end the test if any of the failure criteria are met. So for example, if the recipe is not vegetarian, or if it includes any meats, stop right there. That's a failure that shouldn't happen. And then you specify your criteria, simple as that, plain English language, and then you just run the scenario. You get the results back, you could do further exploration and validate something extra, but we just assert that it's a success. Just a quick glimpse on how my vegetarian recipe agent is defined.
I was going to ask about that exactly.
Yeah, it's a simple one because that's the simplest example first to get started. It's literally just a GPT-4o Mini call for an agent that do this. But you see already prompt engineered a little bit at most one. And the goal for all this is that it allows you to keep prompt engineering, but making sure that stuff didn't break, right? Because you now have a test, and then you can prevent regression, just like traditional tests, but of course, way more open because, yeah, we're talking about LLMs and agents. But yeah, it simply receives a message, it has the history, and then it replies, right? I could give it tools, I could give it anything else. It doesn't really matter for my testing agent. It's really seeing things as a user see. So now let's run this, just so you have an idea. Let me open back here. And yeah, I have this here. I run with PyTest like normal and execute my test. You see that you see a conversation happening here, like user, agent, user. So user is not a real user, of course, it's our simulated user. But I didn't need to do anything. It just generated this message and started talking to it. And then, so the user said, need dinner ideas, and then the agent replied, what type of cuisine? And then the user said, just vegetarian, surprise me. So of course, it already buys a little bit, so it's helping the fact that it is vegetarian. But if you run it again, then it might say something different. It didn't this time. Let me try to run it yet again. Okay. I think it's, yeah, it's always asking the same. But anyway, you see there is a vegetarian recipe. And then it validated that the test passed with the reasoning. The recipe provides a vegetarian, include a list of ingredients, and has step-by-step cooking instructions. So now you start like that, but now it's the time where you enter in your flow of developing and testing with it. Because one question that you might ask is, how can I trust this testing agent, right? Since it's also open. And this, for example, it's of course prompting it because it already knows that it expects a vegetarian answer. So this is when you start going on this loop. The user is looking for a dinner idea. You can add, for example, a strategy key here and say, never mention you want vegetarian. And see if now this makes your test more robust. Just something tasty. Okay, so now it asked for something tasty, and the agent's going to reply recipe, but we still expect it to be a vegetarian recipe, right? Even though we didn't mention anything. Okay, it passes. But then let's say you are now, how to say, you're now a prompt engineering now, and you're changing your prompt. And then you made a change that make this next line invalid. So let's say you forgot to add this, you deleted by accident, something happened. Let's see what happens now. So need your idea, a type of cuisine, something simple. And then it generated a shrimp recipe, right? So now the test fails. And then the interesting part is, so the test failed, but it's not like one is different than two, right? This is, being vegetarian or not is not something that can be measured code. It's really like human language. So then we also need a human readable reasoning of it. And that's what the testing agent gives us back. So it failed, and then it explained why you think it should fail. So it failed because the recipe includes shrimp, which is a type of meat, violating the criteria, which is, yeah, makes sense, right? Obvious. And this is how you TDD, you kind of TDD your way through on developing this, and you can get confidence from both sides. Because if I had, so this was my criteria, right? Ideally, before adding this criteria, I would write a test that I wanted to be vegetarian. I would see it failure, and then only then I would fix it, and then I run it again to see that my test is reliable on both sides. So I see that it's reliable when it fails, and I see that it's reliable on succeeding. After you iterate that a couple times, wait, I did something else with AI? Yes. After you iterate that a couple times, then you get confidence on your test, and you get confidence on your agent. And now you can replace this prompt. You can give it tools. You can change the architecture. You can go crazy with it because you know that you can trust your test or your specifications. Yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah, it looks really interesting. I'm wondering what happens when we include tools. So in this case, would we mock tools and then see that they are invoked, or what's the suggested way of testing this?
You could, but let me jump into an example then that use tools.
Okay.
I think just like end-to-end tests, you need to ponder on those things. What is more valuable to you, right? So mocking can be interesting because then you have full control on what's happening. However, just like many end-to-end tests that go and click on the screen, you might want actually to test with a staging database or something that is really working, because then you have full confidence end-to-end too. And I think a lot of those things that the agents do can be tested for real, but then it's up to you. So to mock, you can use the same mocking tools as always. And if you look on the agents SDKs that are coming out, many of them already provide mocking tools out of the box. So scenario does not care about that, let's say. So they only care about the user view. So if the tools are mocked, but the testing agent see that the tool was used, it doesn't know if it behind the scenes is mocked or not, and it doesn't matter. It is just validating what's happening there. And then I think the best example to show that is this other example here for the lovable clone agent. So
So I just wanted to ask you something before you continue. So what
yeah,
scenario is testing is only the output, only the text, right? So it does not test anything else. So if we want to test anything extra, like to see if the tools were actually used, then we would need to do mocking or whatever, right?
exactly, exactly. So for example, if I want to check, I don't know, for specific words that I can check with regex, or for yeah, the number of tool calls, I would after getting the result, then I can do a more but then it's more traditional test, because you can
Mm,
literally
yeah,
just do an if condition, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, indeed. Um, like I said, we're going to expand more and more scenarios to be able to facilitate at least users to test for more things. But our goal is to be always agnostic of frameworks.
Hmm.
So this means that we need to support whatever you're
Yeah,
using. So we don't want to say like, this is how you should build
makes
tools,
sense.
right?
Makes sense. And I guess,
However,
let's say if your agent is, I don't know, buying airplane tickets, then you would just test that success criteria that, okay, I want to buy an airplane ticket from Berlin to Amsterdam, right? And then success criteria would be that the ticket is bought, right?
exactly,
Or
exactly.
like the agent asks for preferred time, whatever, like well, things like
Exactly.
that. And then we just look at the output, which is text, and then the scenario
Yeah,
the tool understands, okay, like this is passing or this is failing, and then shows the outputs.
exactly. It's mostly about the flow. And then this is the biggest helpful thing here is mostly about all the edge cases. So if the user says they want a flight to Berlin, and then all of a sudden they say they want a chocolate recipe, then we want to test for the scenario that the user does that. And then the agent should steer it back into the travel conversation, right? So this could be an edge case. So that's the goal of scenario, to test conversations like a user. However, it also see the tools outputs. So I'll show here this coding agent, right? And then the coding agent in the message, it actually shows the code that it has written, just like many tools do. So when you're talking to cursor, the output of the code is also there. The user sees that. So our testing agent should also be able to see that. And then it can validate like that the code should have this and this format. And that also fits scenario. However, for checking things, was the file or the JS file actually created, that you will do with a more traditional check. So you just go to the file system, see the file is there. That's simple. Yeah, and then a scenario is reviewing this whole conversation and just trusting, like we do when we talk to an AI, that the AI behind the scenes is doing the right thing.
Hmm. And you wanted to show a lovable clone, right?
Yes, yes, exactly, exactly.
Did you actually implement a clone or?
Yeah, yeah, I did. It was
Oh, that's
actually
cool. Is it open source?
it is, and it
That's
was not
cool.
that hard at all.
Okay.
Turns out AI is super smart now, so you give it a few tools and it can already do a lot. And Claude is also super smart, so
Hmm.
that was powerful. But yeah, this helped me a lot because I found the issues here and there, and I start specifying them. I could just rerun it, so I could save some time on building it. But anyway, let me show you a little bit how it works. Here I have a scenario of a user wanting to create a new landing page for the dog walking startup. And the agent under test is my lovable agent, which I'll show you right now, so not too curious. Here I'm using Pydantic AI framework, but it could really be any. And I'm using Claude 3.5. I actually like the 3.5 a lot still. And I have a system prompt here that was carefully crafted, guided by those issues that I found along the way, right? So like I tested something like, yeah, that doesn't look good. And then I test something else. Yeah, no. And then I keep adding a test and then a rule and a test and a rule. But okay, here is the final prompt. Is actually very simple if you compare to the commercial tools, let's say. But what I have is some instructions saying that the thing is going to build a React, TypeScript, Vite, and a Redux UI website, right? And I did that by generating a Tailwind template. So I just went to the website, created a new VJS template with Tailwind and yeah, React and Redux UI and everything. And then I have some prompt here explaining what it should do, and then I give it a lot of tools. Not a lot even, well, 3 tools. Read file, update file, and create file. That's all it needs. So read file is to understand the code first, and then update file to write and replace a code, and then create file is to create a new file that doesn't exist. And then the other thing that I do is giving it files. I use this XML markers. It helps the AI for some reason. But then on every message after the user send, I also send it the tree of the project, so that the AI can already, in every message, it already knows the full project structure, and then it can just go right away to the file that it needs. It doesn't need to keep navigating into the project. If the project is too big, that wouldn't work, but for the simple template, it works super well. And then that's it. And then I have a for loop, which just take this message and then keep calling tools to try to solve the user request until it's done. And then when it's done, it returns the messages that it produced with the tool calls and all the messages, which is then visible to the testing agent that I'm using here. So then what I say to the test agent is send the first message to generate a landing page, then a single follow-up request to extend it, then give your final verdict. So I just want like create a new website, ask for adding something else, and then decide if that's good enough or not. The success criteria is the agent reads the file before going and making changes. I realized that it was like, sometimes it didn't even care about looking at the file, it just hallucinated and then, yeah, it invented a new file that didn't work well. Agent modified the index CSS and in the TXS file. This is very interesting. This is like copied from Lovable because it the first thing it does is putting the style on your website. Otherwise, it's too bland, you know, it's too boring. So no matter what you ask, the first thing it's going to do is think about style. So I wanted that as well. So I put those rules. And then agent, finally, the agent should create a comprehensive landing page and then should have extended with a new section, whatever it is that it is. I like to keep it open because then I can test different issues across time. And then failure criteria is some things that I also collect along the way, like the agent says it can read the file. When I'm using Gemini, a lot of times Gemini said, sorry, I cannot read your file system. But it's like, you can. Yes, you can. I give you the tool. So I wrote this test, and then I forced it into the prompt, and then it worked fine. And sometimes it's also incomplete or too lazy to finish. I also want to prevent that. How is it that the testing agent can see that? Because we get all the OpenAI messages structured back. So you also see the tool calls in between. So it is, in a way, evaluating tool calls, but it's not as hard-coded, let's say. It's not evaluated code. It's another AI looking at the tool calls that was made and doing this more subjective evaluation like you and me would on top of it. So you are evaluating tool calls. It's just not as strict as we mentioned before, but you can check all those things that I said here. All right, let's run it. Test. So I have, wait, PyTest. Yeah, it's on examples, lovable, or sorry, test, not this one, test lovable clone. Yeah, that's the one. Let me add it to print and variables. So we see what's going on. Maybe I'll run it in another way. Okay, there we go. So the user goes create landing page for my dog walking business, as we expected. And then what I can do is go to this temporary directory that it cloned the template to, npm install, and npm run dev. So it's going to take a while until it finishes, of course, building this website. But yeah, while we talk about something else, I'm just going to leave it open here.
So this is the template you came up before, right? So this is the template it sees, and it modifies this template like the agent modifies it. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah, it's cooking for a little bit. So yeah, meanwhile, oh no, okay, that was fast. Okay, so now we have a professional dog walking service website. So it is not perfect, you know, but there is, it's a website here. probably with a few more prompting, then it can get as good as those other tools out there. But like this was literally just 3 tools and like a 100-line file. It's not big at all, right? But you can see here. Yeah.
It's so amazing, like that you could do this,
Right.
and that was the prompt that you used.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the full prompt. It's not a lot. It's good enough, right?
Wow,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
really cool.
kudos to the AIs being very smart nowadays.
Mhm.
But one interesting thing is that you can see, just like we see when you talk to cursor, but in the terminal here, all the tool calls that it executed. So it said, I'll help you create a landing page, and then it called update file. This is the path. This is the file update. Oh, damn, it scrolled for me. Okay, sorry. And then it said update file, and then it update the index CSS, you see? And then it update file again, and then update index CSS. All these things that we're seeing, the testing agent is seeing too. So it can see, it can answer that question that I put, like the criteria that it should have changed the CSS. And just like you can see, the thing also can see, and then it could give it verdict. And then later it asked it to add testimonial section, which if you look now on the website, it did. We have a testimonial section now. So automatically it asked it for a follow-up and evaluated as a follow-up, and this is a successful test. So the test passed with 100% success rate. All the criteria was matched, 5/5, right?
How long did it take for you to implement this clone with the help of scenario?
It took me half a day. Yeah.
For the Okay.
I
Well,
have to
I
be honest.
assume tests really helped you, right?
Really helped, really helped. I have to be honest that I already played with a coding agent before, so I knew like my ropes around it. But yes, it really helped because, you know, like this took 111 seconds, right? It's a long time. But if I'm doing this by hand, then I'm all the time going there and typing to the AI, generate me a website, didn't work,
Yeah,
generate me,
yeah.
get annoyed, and then I get distracted, you know, I go somewhere else. While
Mm-hmm.
this thing is testing for me, so I know exactly what it failed. I don't need to keep looking at it. And then I just keep adding those rules to make sure that it keep moving forward. Yeah.
How much do you pay for a call like that, for a test iteration like that?
And that's a good question. I don't know right now, but
Do you think it's like 1 cent, 5 cents, 30 cents? Like, do you have like maybe a ballpark estimate?
I think maybe around 5 cents with 3.5. Yeah. So it's
Okay.
not the
Makes sense.
cheapest thing because code is a lot,
Mhm.
right? It's generating a lot of
Yeah,
code. So it's not the cheapest, but it's also not that expensive.
yeah. Also considering how much time it saves.
Yeah. So that's why you should view those as end-to-end tests, right? They are powerful. They validate your system end-to-end, but they're also heavy and expensive, right?
Yeah.
But it is the best way to evaluate agents.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
one thing that we want to do is integrate that more and more. Like I said, that's where we advance the project and integrate back in our own platform with LangWatch. So you can see the cost, for example, you can see the
Huh.
full and validate things on it. So you can see the exact tool calls and things that you were mentioning before, because you have the full trace and because LangWatch can monitor any framework out there, right? So you can have this integration and still remain agnostic of frameworks.
But you know what? We need also to have a demo of LangWatch.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, it's also open source.
Yeah. How many people are working on scenario?
So right now we have 5 engineers. And our big focus right now for the company really is agents. So you can expect a lot of new launches and new features on Scenario and evolving, as well as to other languages like a short. But of course, we'd love contributors and help from the outside. Anything that you think it's missing for your case, the library is right now super simple, super new, very easy to understand. So we are still at the stage where we're debating the perfect API for this, also to support more and more advanced scenario and mocking and what is the way that we recommend to go about it. All this is up for debate. So yeah, if you want to be part of the conversation, we'd love to get some more eyes on it.
Oh, so if somebody wants to contribute, what kind of contributions can they make? Is it more using and then giving feedback, or also there are some issues that you would like to get some help with?
Yes, absolutely. We haven't yet structured our issues and roadmap for this, but the first step is indeed try to use it, give us feedback, see how you like it, see what where it falls short, so we can keep collaborating and expanding on it. But yeah, there is a lot to do. For example, one of the things is the testing agent. A lot of people will probably want to customize the testing agent and create their own new ones. How can we define a common interface so that the customer can specify, like for their own business, how the user behave, right? If you look at the testing agent, it's also very simple to understand and very easy to expand. Testing agent, it's also basically a prompt. You are pretending to be a user, testing an AI agent. How can we make this extensible? How can we connect this with other forms of more traditional evaluation that is also present on LangWatch, for example, or other libraries? And yeah, all those kind of shortcomings and limitations, we want to hear from you. And yeah, please just giving feedback helps a lot. Opening an issue helps a lot.
Because I imagine if, let's say, my agent is not in English, in some other language, then I probably want to modify the prompt you use for the testing agent, and then you need to allow me as a user to do that. And right now, what you're saying is you're thinking, what's the best way of making it possible, making like expose this internal part, so then I can replace it with my own prompt.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
We also need a lot of help on documentation. Right now, our documentation is basically a README and some videos and the
Mhm.
examples. So if you build something cool with it, share with us. Let's put on the examples folder, because the more examples we have, the easier it is for people also to grasp what you can do with it and the concepts around it. And yeah, most of the content's here, but probably we should start organizing it in a proper docs.
Okay, makes sense. And so the next question I usually ask is about your plans. You briefly mentioned that, so you want to work on API, on the API. Is there anything else you plan to work in the nearest future, let's say next quarter or next half a year?
There is. So the next big step, and that we're really excited about, is making this visual. So just like I see all those messages here, but they are hard to scroll through, right? And if you have, and this is one test that I'm running, if I have 10 scenarios happening at the same time, it would actually be super cool to visualize all those 10 simulations all running at the same time, and you can zoom in one of them,
Yeah.
right?
Actually, when I was learning about agents, for me, the idea was to build some sort of playground. And the use case I had in mind was job searching. So you have companies, you have people who are interviewing. So make all of them agents and interact, make them interact. And then this way you would learn how they actually interact with each other. And then you can learn about agents. Not necessarily like a super useful scenario, but still fun, because like every agent can have a certain set of skills. Like, I don't know, some job seekers can know, like, I don't know, Java, Spring, whatever. Some can
Yeah,
know Python, Go, and then they just interview. And like for
yeah,
me, where I
exactly.
got stuck is making this visual.
Exactly. That's the biggest challenge. And this is like, if you have any ideas, share it out. If you have any designs, because exactly what you're saying, if we can do that, but not only one playground, but 10 playgrounds in parallel, right? And
Yeah.
you put those 10 group of agents in different scenarios, in different situations, and see how they play out.
Yeah.
And then you see what happens, right? And then how to make this visual, because it's a lot of things interacting at the same time. How can you even step into and understand what's going on,
Yeah,
right?
so at
Yeah.
the beginning, I just wanted to print everything to standard output, but then it's become such a mess so quickly. So you want to have some sort of web interface, I guess, where you can collapse things, where you can see the agents, where you see which agents interact with which ones. You want to see all the traces, all the conversations, also costs, like how much money each agent
Right.
spent. But I guess this sounds like a big project on its own, right?
Of course, yes. Well, you asked about future plans and where we're going. Yeah, this is where we're going.
That's pretty cool. Well, I know we're taking a bit more time than we usually do, but I have one last question, and this is my favorite question that I ask at the very end. Do you have any advice to anyone who's watching this?
Any advice?
Yeah.
Yes, I guess kind of cliche, but just go have fun. Those
Yeah.
things are super fun, like just this lovable clown thing I was building.
Mhm.
It built me so many dog websites. It's just so fun to play with. And I think more and more we're realizing that high level things like this can work actually and can be very valuable. Yeah, and at the same time, yeah, super cool to build. So yeah, that's my main advice. That's what I try to do, starting the
Mhm.
startup just so I
Mhm.
have an excuse to have fun with those toys.
Amazing. So, thanks a lot, Rogerio, for doing the demo today, for giving us some of your time and doing this demo, also for making it all open source. So this is amazing. I am a big fan of open source, and I really admire companies and people who put the work out there in the open and let everyone use it for free. This is amazing. Thanks for doing this. And I know people who are watching this also appreciate this. So I would like to ask you to support LangWatch and go give them a star, give Scenario a star, and also their main project a star. So this way you will support them too. So please do this. And
Exactly. We are about to reach 2,000 stars, so if you can give
yeah,
that little final push.
yeah, please do that. And yeah, thanks again for doing this, and really looking forward to hearing, to seeing more content from you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks.